You think you want a relationship. You say it to yourself when you're lying in bed at night, staring at the ceiling. You say it when you see a couple walking together and something hollow opens up in your chest. You say it when the weekends feel too quiet and your phone has nothing worth reading. You say it like a prayer. You say it like a plan. But here is what nobody is going to tell you. What you feel in those moments is not love. It is not readiness. It is not even loneliness in the way you think it is. What you feel is discomfort, and you have trained yourself to believe that a woman, a relationship, a connection is the cure. It is not. You do not want a relationship. You want the feeling you think a relationship will give you. And until you understand the difference, you will keep chasing something you are not built to hold. This is the truth most men never hear. Not because it is hidden, because it is uncomfortable. And today, you're going to hear it. Let's start here. You say you want love, but look at your actions. When was the last time you made real space in your life for another person? Not theoretically, not someday, right now. Is your schedule intentional, or is it a wall you hide behind? Do you communicate clearly, or do you disappear when things get complicated? Do you show up consistently, or only when the mood is right and the effort feels easy? Your actions are louder than your feelings, and your actions are telling a very different story than the one you rehearse in your head. You don't want a relationship, you want relief. You want the pain to stop. And there is a critical difference between those two things. Here is what is actually happening for most men. They are not experiencing genuine desire for partnership. They are experiencing emotional hunger. They feel the weight of isolation, the absence of warmth, the exhaustion of building alone. And instead of sitting with that feeling and examining it, they translate it into something more acceptable. They say, I want a relationship, because that sounds mature. That sounds like a goal. That sounds like something worth pursuing. But underneath it, the honest translation is this: I am tired of feeling this way, and I want someone to make it stop. That is not love. That is not readiness. That is a man looking for a painkiller and calling it romance. A relationship will not fix your loneliness. It will expose why you were lonely in the first place. The emotional gap is real. Many men have never been taught to distinguish between loneliness and love, between wanting company and wanting connection, between needing validation and choosing a partner. They feel empty and they assume the solution is a woman. They feel unseen and they assume the solution is someone who sees them. But the wound does not close because someone new enters the room. It closes because you do the work to understand why it opened in the first place. Until you do that, you will bring the hunger into every relationship. You will consume attention instead of building trust. You will need constant reassurance instead of offering steady presence. And when the woman in front of you cannot fill the hole that was never hers to fill, you will call her the wrong person and move on and do it again. This is the cycle. And it starts with confusing emotional hunger for relationship readiness. Now let's go deeper, because there is another layer to this that most men will not admit to. The relationship they want exists only in their imagination. In your mind, there is a version of love that feels like constant warmth, like being chosen every day without having to ask, like having someone who is always there, always soft, always available, always admiring, always loyal, always giving. That version of love does not require anything difficult from you. It does not require patience. It does not require compromise. It does not require emotional discipline when you're frustrated. It does not require sitting with discomfort, making hard choices, or growing in ways that feel exposed. You want the affection without the accountability. You want the intimacy without the vulnerability. You want the loyalty without the responsibility of being someone worth staying for. And here is the brutal part. That relationship you are fantasizing about is not a relationship. It is a performance of love filtered through your comfort. It is designed by your imagination to never challenge you. Real love challenges you. Real partnership requires you to negotiate your ego on a daily basis. It requires you to show up when you do not feel like it. It requires you to hold space for another person's pain without making it about your own. It requires you to be consistent, not because it is easy, but because you chose it. The fantasy cannot ask that of you. The fantasy is always convenient, and the fact that you prefer the fantasy is not a character flaw, but it is information. It tells you that you are not yet ready for the reality. Here is something that sounds wrong until you really think about it. You are not afraid of commitment because you have not found the right person. You are afraid of commitment because freedom feels like control, and control is what keeps you safe. When you are single, you answer to no one. Your time is yours. Your choices are yours. Your mistakes only fall on you. There is no negotiation, no compromise, no one watching when you fail, no one disappointed when you disappear. There is just you and the open space of possibility. And that feels like power. The problem is that it is not power, it is the illusion of power. Because a man who can only function in the absence of accountability is not free. He is afraid. A real relationship forces accountability, not as punishment, but as a natural consequence of choosing to include someone in your life. It forces you to communicate instead of shut down, to be present instead of distant, to confront your own patterns instead of rationalizing them, to become someone more than who you are right now. And that is the hidden fear. Not commitment itself, but what commitment will reveal about you, what you will have to face about yourself when the mirror of intimacy gets close enough to show you clearly. Freedom is easier than growth. And as long as you prioritize freedom over growth, you will tell yourself you want a relationship while unconsciously doing everything to avoid one. Now here's a chapter most men skip entirely because it requires a level of honesty that is uncomfortable. Many men are not looking for love. They are addicted to being wanted. Think about it. The early stages of attraction, the tension, the uncertainty, the moment someone shows real interest, that feeling of being chosen, being pursued, being desired. That feeling is intoxicating. It is a hit. And like any hit, it fades. Once you have it, you start looking for the next one. The woman who was once exciting becomes familiar. Familiar becomes ordinary. Ordinary becomes invisible. And suddenly you are restless. Suddenly you are convinced she is wrong for you. Suddenly you start noticing someone else, somewhere else, who makes you feel the way this woman used to. This is not chemistry. This is addiction. Addiction to the feeling of being wanted, not to the person doing the wanting. The validation loop is seductive. Every time a new woman responds to you, every time someone laughs at what you say, touches your arm, texts you first, the brain registers it as confirmation. Confirmation that you are desirable, that you are worthy, that you're enough. And that confirmation becomes the drug. Not connection, not depth, not the slow and honest building of trust with one person. Just the hit, just the beginning, just the high of being chosen. And the tragedy is that men in this loop will move through relationship after relationship, wondering why nothing lasts, not realizing they are the reason, not realizing they have never stayed long enough to build anything, because building requires moving past the high and into the uncomfortable territory of real intimacy. And real intimacy is where the addiction stops working, so they leave, and start again. If you recognize yourself here, this is not the time for shame. This is the time for honesty. There is another version of this that looks different on the surface, but follows the same logic. You say you want a good woman, a calm woman, a woman who does not play games, does not create drama, does not make you feel anxious or uncertain. You say you want peace. But here is the question. When someone calm and genuine enters your life, what happens? Does it feel right or does it feel boring? Does the absence of chaos feel like rest or does it feel like something is missing? For many men, a woman who is stable, consistent, and genuinely available feels flat, and they walk away from her, confused about why there is no spark, while they keep gravitating toward women who are unpredictable, emotionally inconsistent, and high drama. They tell themselves it is just chemistry. that the spark was not there. But the truth is harder. Their nervous system was trained for chaos. If you grew up in an environment where love was conditional, inconsistent, loud, or painful, then that environment became your baseline. Calm feels wrong, not because it is wrong, but because it is unfamiliar. Drama, tension, uncertainty, and pursuit feel like love, because that is what love felt like when your brain was first learning what love means. So a woman who is good to you registers as boring. A woman who keeps you anxious and guessing feels electric. You are not choosing chemistry. You are choosing trauma. You're not attracted to her. You are attracted to the familiar discomfort she represents. And until you do the internal work to recalibrate that baseline, you will keep mistaking chaos for connection. You will keep leaving the right thing for the exciting wrong thing. And you will keep calling it a search for love when it is actually a repetition of pain. Here is the chapter that will make you uncomfortable, and it is supposed to. A real, serious relationship would expose you, not destroy you, expose you. There is a version of yourself that functions perfectly in isolation. In isolation, your habits go unchallenged, your patterns go unnoticed, your financial disorder, your emotional avoidance, your tendency to check out when things get hard, your insecurity that you have dressed up as confidence, none of it is visible when you are alone. You can perform the best version of yourself in short bursts, on dates, in the early weeks, in the moments where you control the environment and the narrative. But sustained intimacy removes the performance. A woman who is truly close to you sees the inconsistency between who you say you are and how you actually behave. She sees the gap between your ambitions and your daily choices. She sees what you do when you are afraid. She sees what you do when you are wrong. She sees whether your discipline is real or performed. And for many men, the subconscious fear of that exposure is exactly why they never let it get that deep. They get close and then create distance. They initiate and then retreat. They say they want more and then sabotage it when more becomes available. Because deep down, they know. A real relationship would require them to become accountable for who they actually are, not who they intend to be, not the version they aspire to, but the current, unfinished, inconsistent, still in progress version. And that is terrifying when you have not yet made peace with that version of yourself. The relationship is not the problem. You are not ready for what the relationship would reveal. And that is the most honest thing this script will say. Let's make a distinction that almost nobody makes clearly. There is a difference between wanting a woman and building with one. Wanting is an emotion. It is hunger. It is desire. It is the feeling that arises without effort and can disappear just as quickly. Wanting is easy. Every man knows how to want. Building is something else entirely. Building is a decision you make every day, including the days when you don't feel like it. Building is communication when you are tired. Building is choosing patience when your instinct is frustration. Building is showing up to the same person, the same life, the same commitment long after the novelty has gone, and what remains is the reality of who you both actually are. Building requires vision, not just attraction. It requires you to look at this person and think, I want to construct something with you that neither of us could create alone. Most men have never been taught this distinction. They are fluent in wanting. They are illiterate in building. They can desire deeply. They cannot commit consistently. They can start. They cannot sustain. And they wonder why their relationships collapse. They collapse because you cannot build a structure on feeling alone. Feeling is the spark. Commitment is the architecture. Without the architecture, every structure falls when the first storm hits. And relationships always face storms. Always. The men who build understand this and stay. The men who only want are surprised by the storm and leave. The difference between those two men is not how much they feel. It is whether they have developed the capacity to choose beyond the feeling. Now it is time to test yourself, not theoretically, with real questions, honest questions. Do you make genuine space in your life for another person? not space you plan to make someday when things slow down. Right now, today. Is your schedule, your energy, your emotional availability actually open? Or are you hoping someone will fit into the cracks of a life you have no intention of restructuring? Do you communicate clearly? Or do you go silent when something is difficult? Do you say what you mean? Or do you expect people to decode your behavior and meet you where you refuse to name? Do you have real standards? Not preferences, not fantasies, actual principles that guide who you choose and how you treat them? Or do you simply react to whoever shows you the most interest? Do you choose or do you default? And here is the most important question of all. When was the last time you did something specifically designed to make you more ready for a relationship? Not to attract someone, not to improve your results, but to genuinely develop your capacity for sustained, honest, accountable love. When did you work on your patience, your communication, your emotional regulation, your financial clarity, your sense of purpose that does not depend on external validation? If the answer is not recently, then the relationship you are asking for is not something you are building toward. It is something you are hoping will arrive and save you from the work. And it will not. It never does. Here is where this ends, and it does not end with shame. It ends with clarity. Maybe you're not ready for a relationship right now. Maybe that is not a failure. Maybe that is the most honest and important thing you can know about yourself at this moment in your life. Because the answer is not to fake readiness. The answer is not to pursue connection before you have built the internal structure that makes connection sustainable. The answer is to stop using the desire for a relationship as a substitute for the work that would actually make you ready for one. You need discipline before you need a partner. You need purpose before you need someone to share it with. You need to have built something in your life that is worth inviting another person into. You need to have done enough internal work that a relationship adds to your life rather than revealing the instability underneath it. Stop asking for love to save a life you have not built yet. Stop looking for a woman to give you what you have not yet given yourself. Stop calling it loneliness when what it really is avoidance. And stop calling it readiness when what it really is hunger. Get clear. Get honest. Get to work. Not because a relationship is not worth wanting, but because you're worth more than a relationship built on a foundation of everything you have not yet faced. Build the foundation first. Then, and only then, invite someone to stand on it with you.